Welcome back to the Man That Can Project podcast. Today is a special one, as they all are, but we've got the boy from the bush, the boy from Longreach, and now living in Lennox.
Lockie, how are you, mate?
Mate, Cam, great to have you here.
Yeah.
Thanks for driving up too.
Yeah, mate, it's, well, I get up that time of day anyway and sit outside and have a cuppa, so it's quite peaceful on the road.
How'd you kill your time on the drive up?
I was actually thinking about telling you this, so my voice might be a bit crackly, but
You're singing.
yeah, I'll go with Luke Combs and Morris Black, a bit of a belting.
Mate,
would have been horrendous if you were sitting next to me. So.
How good's Forrest?
Oh, it was a podcast that you did with him a few weeks back, and yeah, never heard of him, and his story was really good, so sort of dived into his music and blown away.
He's such a talented songwriter. He's actually going on tour at the moment. I've been fortunate to know him for 8 or 9 years now. And just like watching his career has been epic. And then Combsy, of course. His new song's a belter.
Well, me younger brother, family, like we all grew up in the bush and they've been listening to that sort of music for years. And I'm just like, I don't listen to that. No. Yeah. And then, it would have been a couple of weeks ago. Just started listening to it, listen to the words, and it's actually really good.
It reminds me of your childhood. Like for me, I'm just like, love the lyrics that he has. And then I was reading, because I love Combsy. He's like, he's my goal, and so his mate Ray Fulcher, who's written 12 number ones with him. Yeah, talking with him, he's meant to come on the podcast in the next couple of weeks as well. So I'm one step away from having Combsy on the podcast, and I don't even know where I was going with that now. Can't remember what I was saying. Anyway, let's dive into you. Enough about Combsy. Oh no, that's what I was going with it. It's the I was reading his overview of his new album he's got coming out in the 26th of March, and he's got this theme through the album artwork, and then you know this one, he's like, this is all about like where I'm at in my life right now, and he's talking about how he misses what he once had when he had the freedom and the partying and all of that, but he loves what he now has with his family, living on a ranch, and not being able to drink as much. Not that he wants to, because he realizes that hangovers take away from the most joy with his family. And I'm like, that's epic, because I guess you and I have probably realized that before we have families.
I was just about to say the same. That's probably why it's more relative to where we are in our life, so we can relate with those experiences and, what he's talking about. But, as a young fella, you don't really think too much about that. Let's dance music, whatever everyone else is listening to. You might sing it, but you never take in the words and, I guess, pay attention to what it means or what they're talking about. You just sing it. So
yeah, exactly.
Now, as you get older, you sort of dive into that stuff a little bit more and, appreciate what they're talking about and how it's important in your life, or whether it has any relevance at all. So
definitely. Yeah. So take us back. Like, you've had some adversity, plenty of injuries, and struggles to where you are now as one of the leading practitioners in neurophysics. So I want to help people understand what the hell that is, and also myself. Yep. But also how you went from playing footy, like you played professionally, you were the Cowboys. Yep. And then went to the coal mines. Yeah. And now you're here. Give us the rundown.
Yeah, I'll try and simplify it as much as I can. But grew up in Longreach. I'd say, as an upbringing, it was pretty good. Like, I had 2 loving parents. Pretty tough on me, but in a good way. Had nothing growing up, so mum and dad worked, multiple jobs to make sure we had what we needed. Out in Longreach, there's not too many choices for sports. I was either rugby league or cricket.
Choose one.
Or swimming. But I got kicked out of swimming. So
did you?
Yeah, and tennis, but just I wasn't interested. Couldn't sit still long enough and pay attention. But his dad had a pretty strong connection to rugby league out in Longreach. So as a young kid, I think my earliest memories, I had a footy in my hand. I'd be out in the backyard pretending to be Steve Renouf and, Wally Lewis and all those type of players playing against different teams. And, I'd score all the tries, obviously. But just man. Up and down, in the field, back and forth in the backyard, And used to love mum and used to work at the news agency at the time, so she'd bring home the rugby league week. And
how good was that magazine?
Yeah, studying it. We'd have trading card days, I think every couple of weeks when the trading cards were a thing, and we'd have, all my mates would come over and we'd trade and swap and all that sort of thing. And I think they even had little figurines that you get at BP, so when you fuel up, you'd get a little Mel Meninga or Willie Kahn or Alfie Langer figurine. So still got all that stuff. Got it off Mum a while back. So
do they just still do that stuff?
I think they might still do trading cards, but I think the way the world's going with all the NFT stuff, you could probably venture back into that space. But so I guess rugby league was a big part of my upbringing. We got to would have been grade 8, so it would have been 13 out in Longreach. That sort of is a bit of a cutoff. So there's not really the competition. Kids go to boarding school. I was still out there at that point, so we had to drive from Longreach to Emerald, and we played for the Gemfield Giants, which is about...
The Gemfield Giants,
which is about 40 k's west of Emerald.
Yep.
So we play there. So there'd be 8, 9 of us would drive down with my dad driving the bus. And
how long was that drive?
4 hours down. So the 8-hour round trip was a home game for us.
An 8-hour round trip?
Yeah. So it was crazy, but we loved it. Like Dad, we'd all get in the, woken up, jump in the bus.
Yeah.
We'd pull up and have a pie and
get
a cake. It was a great bonding experience for young kids, and their parents loved it as well. And it probably kick-started our footy because, playing in Longreach and where there's only a couple of teams, and sort of if you're in that top, I guess, niche of kids, you sort of thought, oh, yeah, I'm going all right. But then you go into that comp and then it's like starting all over again. So
start at the bottom.
Yeah, and we got belted quite a lot. So we played Claremont, Moranbah, Blackwater. So we'd have to travel up there as well. So the first year up there, we got absolutely...
What was an away game then time?
8 hours to Moranbah.
Would you just stay overnight then, or...?
Yeah, so we'd just camp out the back on the footy field.
That's epic.
And there'd be horses floating through the paddock. But we just... we camped growing up as well. What an experience. Great, mate. It was really good. Big turning point, I think.
Do you feel that helped with like camaraderie and stuff? Because
Definitely.
As you were saying that, I was thinking, we used to bus down from Toowoomba, which was about 2 hours to play in the GPS comp.
Yeah.
So the bus trips were always fun. You're always up to mischief and whatnot. But I think maybe a lot of the people who are in the GPS comp, for example, in Brisbane, where they just get picked up and dropped off, there's no time together with the team or with your mates specifically, unless you go away on a camp.
Yeah.
I think that's why I loved footy so much as well, was those road trips and
connections.
Stuff. Yeah.
It was, mate. It was, we spent so much time together, learn a lot about each other. And Matty Scott, I know. Queensland, Australian player. So he grew up in the same place out there. And then he was on the bus also. So we were 13, he was 15, but he would come down and play after us for Gemfields as well. So he did that for a couple of years before going to St Brendan's in Yeppoon. And then I went down to St Brendan's in grade 10 as well. So, but all amongst that. So the first year out there, we got absolutely belted. And then as we sort of developed, got a bit better, started to improve, but we were still way off the 8 ball. And, even as 12 and 13, I was getting picked for Northwest, which is, for yourself, it's equivalent to Darling Downs. So we'd come into Brisbane. I remember this vividly. Caught a bus in from Longreach. So 14 hours. We played at, I think it was called Langlands Park back then, which is East Brizzy. And we had the under 12 primary or secondary rugby league state carnival. So, I thought, we got a pretty handy side. Boys from Mount Isa, from the bush, and we played. I think it was Met East first, if I got my memory right, and Junior Sow, if you remember him. He used to play for Canberra Raiders. Probably the same size he was playing NRL. He was back in grade 7. Jeez. Massive big legs, moustache. Probably easy 100 kilos and. I remember trying to get in the way of him and just speed bump. And we were getting beaten 60-0. Like every game we got beaten by at least 50 points by all over Queensland, these teams. And
you thought you had a handy team there.
Yeah. So it was a massive eye-opener. I remember going back going, I don't know, Mum and Dad, if I really want to play this anymore. Like, I'm playing men here. Like, so it was a bit of a humbling experience as well, but...
What made you continue playing? Because, for example, you take a situation like that where you get your ass handed to you, and that happens in so many areas of people's lives, and they feel ashamed, embarrassed, and, and a range of different emotions around that, and they just quit. Why didn't you quit?
I would say I'm pretty driven, but, growing up out there, everyone knew everyone.
Yep.
Everyone helped everyone. My dad kept me in line. If I was ever cheeky, definitely got to, smack up the bum. But, I appreciate that as well because it helped teach me what was right or wrong. So
definitely.
I was training when I was 13, and it did set up in some way some unhealthy behaviours because I was a skinny white boy from the bush, and these guys were. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get to there?
Yep.
So I come back and I actually started doing gym.
The meat pies and Coke, mate.
Oh no, I've started buying creatine and supplements as a 13-year-old boy. I was training 4 times a week. So in a way, I created this unhealthy pattern around exercise and pushing myself. So in one sense, it created a lot of discipline and commitment. So and I would never change that. But in this other way, it created this sort of like this nothing sort of was good enough. I just I've got to go do one more session, and I was streaks ahead of most, but it was sort of.
Do you think though?
Keep going.
Because that's something I'm talking a lot about with my psychologist at the moment, and it's a tough conversation because I'm like, yes, it can appear unhealthy, or for some people, yes, but for me as well, I like knowing that I'm not at the finish line, and I think the perspective that I take it at is
true.
As long as I'm giving time to my all the other important areas, as long as I'm like, it's not done. Like, I don't want to ever settle and think that my relationship's made it. I don't want to think that I've made it in business, in understanding myself. So that's sort of, I guess, a perspective. This is what I tell myself that I tell my psych, try to justify it. But I think if I didn't have that approach, I worry about becoming complacent and lazy again. Yeah. And I've been there. I didn't like how my life was or who I was at that point. So when...
Totally agree with you there, mate. It's
perspective on that.
Yeah. Well, I guess at that age too, you don't really think about it. I was just like, and as a kicking the ball around the backyard, like I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to do any of that. It was just like, I want to play footy.
Yep.
And that's it. Like, I was very narrowly focused on that, and I would do whatever it takes. I was quite the quieter kid. Yep. So I didn't really, I wouldn't say socialise. I'd just train and do my thing. I was happy.
Yep.
But, so as a result, went to boarding school, and then same thing, just train. So there's 10, 11, 12. And it set up like I was very disciplined. And, I remember in our end of grade 11, we had, we were choosing who was going to be school captain for grade 12. We'd have to, you got voted on by your peers and your teachers. And, people would write little poster notes about each person. And they were the things, people like, you're so disciplined, you're so committed, you're so nice, you're so humble, all these type of things. And, I attribute that to my parents, but it was very much, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a footy player. And then, so in some ways that set me up to where I've got to now. Yep. But end of grade 12, school captain, from getting all the floggings that we did playing, all over Queensland as a young kid, we won, Capricornia won the state titles for like the first time in 16 years.
Really?
Yeah. So, and we played, so Greg Inglis was at that carnival, Steve Michaels, Cambo, who's been on here. He was playing for Met East at the time.
Did you get a shot on Cambo?
No, I can't remember. I sort of knew who he was, and then obviously when he had his time at the Cowboys and that as well. And I've run into him a few times in Brizzy over the last few years.
He was running the stairs this morning, the big rig.
Was he?
Carrying kettlebells,
Oh, sounds horrendous.
Yeah, it was.
And, mate. So, and then as sort of that time after winning that, like, so it's sort of, I guess in a way, it sort of validated to me that if you put in the work and you're committed and, because even if you looked at the side that we had there and you matched them up against all the other sides, we were still mildly quite small, but we had played with each other for such a long time through different comps. Yep. 8 of us went to boarding school together, we knocked off and won that carnival. And out of that, there was probably only 3 of us that got NRL contracts.
Yep.
And some of the other teams got 5th and 6th, and there would have been 8 or 9 of them.
Really?
Yeah, like Stevie Michaels was in that as well, played for Broncos, the Titans. there's heaps more that were in there. But yeah, mate. So it's interesting. So as a result of that, there was had Roosters, Broncos, Parramatta, and the Cowboys chasing me.
What was that like coming across? So you were 17 at that time?
Yeah,
16,
so 17. It was sort of mid grade 12, school captain.
Yep. And did it make you what was that like getting multiple offers?
In a way, I remember I probably thought that I'd made it.
Yep.
As well, like it was sort of like, well, this was the, that sort of carrot I've been chasing in a way, or this is what I was hoping to achieve.
Yep.
And but yeah, it was pretty confronting in a way because it's like, all this attention, and I always shunned attention. Like I hate being the center of attention.
Yep.
Because whatever, it was more how I viewed things. Like, I'd drop a pass and go, we'd win by 40 points, and I'd be going, shit, why did I drop that pass? And I'd just dwell on the pass instead of, the
enjoying
game we won.
Win, yeah,
100%. And in a way, that's probably what it was like. So I had those clubs, and I'm going, I don't really know. Like, where should I go? Like, I really had no idea.
What made you choose the Cowboys?
Well, at that time, I had my auntie there and my nana, who still lives there. 8 hours from Longreach. Townsville's pretty kicked back.
Yep.
It's still a big area, but we went down to Sydney, toured through Parramatta. They flew mum and dad down, and I was like, in one sense, the setup was probably better at that time in my life to develop because they didn't have the 20 system back then. It was just straight into reserve grade, A grade, NRL. That was it. But by going to Townsville, I thought it would be probably an easier, from a adjusting point of view for me to do, but it was actually, it was
so in hindsight, how do you feel about that decision?
It's a tough one actually. I would probably never change it. I would still go to the Cowboys. I learned a lot in that time there. There's some really good people in the club. And that was the first year I was there was the first. That's when Thurston was there that first year, and they made the grand final. And the Tigers beat them in that grand final. So it was a massive year for the region. I wasn't playing in the team, but Young Guns, which was the reserve grade team in Queensland Cup, we won the Queensland Cup and beat Burleigh.
That's awesome.
So it was a massive year for the club and for the region. So I probably, I was, quite a young, naive type of kid from the bush. Don't really know any difference. So probably going to Sydney would have, in a way, led me astray a little bit more because it's, bright lights and, you're just, there's so many kids in the system down there. Could have easily, who knows what would have happened. But, you sort of reflect on little turning points at that in your life, or what if I took that direction? And then I go, well, I'm happy where I'm at. I wouldn't change any of that, but it's just nice to just sit there and, sort of ponder that and go, well, what could have happened there? But it's
like one of those movies where it gives you the options. Do you go left or do you go right? And you can watch the movie multiple times and it gives you a whole different experience.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to be able to do that with your life.
100%.
Just see.
100%. And just see how it unfolds because, it's like making a decision every day. Like you could either go this way or that way. So just by going that way, so many different things can unfold.
Yeah.
So, I think the biggest thing I've learned from over the years is that, it gets you to this point. And if you didn't have adversity, different experiences, doing things you probably don't want to do or doing the wrong thing, you wouldn't get to where you are in the first place. If it was all smooth sailing, well, then you're not challenging yourself. You're not getting uncomfortable. You're really probably not going to grow. You might be content, but,
You're still, I agree with you. And I think a big challenge in society at the moment is the adversity piece, and adversity is coming through, people losing their jobs or people having and verbalizing different opinions and viewpoints and a whole range of things. And we're so easily offended.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
People lack resilience and perseverance to get the job done, or, they don't like the hours that they're made to work. And it's like, okay, I can appreciate that we all have an idea of a quality of life that we want to live and how it's going to live. But unfortunately, if you're aware enough or socially aware enough that we're all so unique and individuals that there's going to be different viewpoints, people are going to, if you're in a position of employing people, you still need work done. You still need jobs, and if you don't want to do it, there will be someone that does want to do it.
Yeah.
But I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. That's why that employment piece was front of mind. And I was just like, you just got to rip in and get the job done. And if you don't like how it is, but you need the income or you need whatever's there, use it as a platform to then grow.
100%. It's funny you say that, because I've been thinking about it and talking to people as well, is that everyone's trying to change their environment.
Yep.
So it's like, which is all right. If you've got money and time and, you're on your own, you're an individual, you can do that. It's pretty easy. But, if you have multiple kids or, your work's paying off debt or you're committed to something people can't change their environment. So there's all these people trying to escape everything and step away, and it's easier said than done. So, like even with what we do with teaching people how to take control of themselves, because if you can't look after yourself, if you can't, make the right decisions, control how you feel physically, emotionally, well, how the hell are you going to, you go and change a different environment, well, you're still the same. You might be doing something a little bit different, but you're still the same person. When that stress gets to a certain point, triggers you, whatever it is, bang, then my true colours come out again.
Well said.
Until we learn how to deal with that stress or how we feel about a situation, we're not going to change in a way. So, I think everything we have is already here. We have to get better at
that.
Yeah, and you might even then go, oh, actually, this environment's not that bad.
It was
bad.
me.
Yeah, I was
projecting stuff.
And, humans in particular, like you might, go have dinner or lunch or catch up with someone and you have a horrendous experience, and then another mate goes, well, let's go blah, 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 where you went last week, and you're going, oh, shit, last time I went there was... So you already have this anticipated, preempt response of what's going to happen when you don't know that's going to happen. So you've already judged the outcome. So, and we all do that.
100%.
And it works in a positive way sometimes as well. Like, you got a big event or, you're talking or you're doing something for the first time. You can use that energy to, get a good result, because without that, well, it sort of doesn't perk you up to get the job done. But if you're using it in a negative way, like I'm going to do a 5K run and I don't want to do it and I'm going to get beaten by such and such, you will get beaten, because your brain's not going to let you down. It's going to tell your body, hey, we're not on today, we're going to get smashed. So, I think it's a big thing, like that adversity, and people are generally struggling a lot more today with all the stuff that's happened in the world and, changing all these different jobs and, people aren't coping. So we're continually looking further and further afield, and I need this and I need that, and, reaching for different resources when they're not checking back in with themselves and they actually have everything they need.
Definitely.
So it's just finding the ways to connect into that. Yeah.
Great point. Because it was the same for me when I moved to France to play footy. Mm-hmm. I thought that was going to solve all my issues, and within 3 months, the same bad patterns were coming through, the same insecurities, doubt, and I was just like, and now I'm away from my support system, so it's even worse. It's amplifying. And then when I got home, I started realizing that eventually I had to start doing the things for myself. What was it for you? Obviously, the adversity through footy, you had a heap of injuries, and we'll keep tying in with your story of footy, etc.
Yep.
But what was that moment for you where you realized and we're probably going to jump, feel free not to jump and just keep the story going, but you realized that you had the power to start changing how you perceived things and how you responded to things?
Yeah, so probably like the time at the Cowboys, when I started to break down, because, that whole journey through my teens, I was eating well, I was training hard, supposed hard, of what everyone else was doing, doing the stretch and recovery, supplements, eating, extras. I was always doing extras, but, first game up there, bang, did my knee, right knee. And then come back, got that sorted, like 8 months later, I think. And then I played 6 months later, debuted Q Cup. I was still skinny. I was 76 kilos.
Playing Q Cup 76?
Yeah, played against South, so that debuted, but knee still wasn't right. And then I played that and probably one more game and just was off again. And then over that preseason, bulked up, put on 8 kilos.
Musashi bulk.
Yeah, just too much.
Yeah.
And then my body just couldn't sustain it. So then once we started, proper pre-season, hip flexors, quads, hammies, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And started breaking down. And then once I sort of settled that, I got into a bit of a rhythm. Didn't have any big injuries. I think I did my ankle. It's probably 7 weeks. Played probably another 3 or 4 Q Cup games that year in amongst sort of minor injuries.
Yep.
And then halfway through the next year, or probably less, we had some incredible hookers up there at the time. There's probably 3 or 4 blokes I was up against that already had played NRL, 3-4 years older. I'm just going, what do I do? I'm learning a lot, but do I just hang around or Steve Anderson at the time, he's a high-performance coach for Australian rugby. I don't know if he still is, but as assistant coach at Melbourne Storm, Australian Kangaroos back in the day when Chris Anderson was coaching. He was at Comets at the time, or Central Queensland, and he rang us up and said, would you like to come back and play? You grew up in the area. And I was like, I always said if I went back to that area, and this was the same for a lot of kids at that time, that you had failed.
Yep.
Because at that time there was really nothing in the area, even though there's some incredible talent. You look now, Ben Hunt, Cameron Munster, Harry Grant. Ben Hunt, Harry Grant went to St Brendan's. Munster went to Emmaus in Rockhampton, all from that area in the Australian side, just recently. So there's some incredible talent in that area. So, but at that time, no one wanted to come back.
Yep.
But once I come back, I connected with all my friends. I had friends that I played with. It really, I guess, pulled me back into myself a bit. And, why am I playing footy? And so I had some really good, enjoyable years there playing footy. Did my ACL, though. Played a whole year with it.
What, with a torn ACL?
Yeah. So
what was that like?
Well, it hurt when I did it, but, it just blew up. And then I iced it, settled down. I'd miss a few days at training. And then when I'd go to run again, it would sort of take a little bit to get going. But once I warmed up, I was limited, but I wouldn't say there was pain. It would just swell up.
Were you nervous about your lateral movements and stuff? Or
Not really, because I played hooker in the middle of the field. So, I had to step around in a little bit. But, no, it never really fazed me. It's probably towards the back end of the year when I thought, something's probably not right here. I better go get it checked.
So you hadn't had a scan to that point? Okay, right.
Nah,
so you
but
weren't
I could
really aware.
feel the movement in there. And I guess probably because all over the place. Yep. And, got it checked at the end of the year. And,
well done.
Had torn
You're
it.
a menace.
But that was it. And then I think I had 2 more years. And then, sort of the same as what you said, with going to France. I thought, I'm sort of over footy. I was only 24, 25.
Same.
Politics, footy, picked one week up and down. So I was starting to get in this bit of a roller coaster. And I was aware of this when I was younger, but I just thought, every male, female goes through it. I'm happy, pissed off, happy, pissed off, make a side, get injured. And I'm just like, I think it's normal. But then, we were even getting talks where you'd have a, specialist physical therapist or guru come talk to you or tell you to do this, and then you'd have this specialist, coaching mind type person will come talk to you, but they're all in separate entities. And I guess back then, that's when I started to go, why are they separate? Like, how is that separate to us? We're one system, all our systems are integrated. Why do we have to break it apart? But so I sort of thought about it, but I was probably a little bit too young.
Yep.
And then I was like, I'm going to go to the mines, so, go out there, make 150, 200,000 a year, 7 and 7, most unpractical person ever. But, I did it. I think it come off the back of the ethic, work ethic. I could be taught, because you're driving machinery, bit of labour. So I could be taught how to do it. And, even when I started, I was there for the 5 years. That whole time I was like, where am I going? How do I get out of here? What's the next step for me? Because, I could do a 12-hour shift driving something and, this is not safe and at all. But I could generally be thinking about different things about what am I going to do on my days off? Because it's so mind-numbing. It's just so repetitive. It's, we're not designed to sit in a fixed position for 12 hours at a time. No. Like, it's inhumane in a way. So
Was it worth the money?
At that, I'm grateful for the opportunity because it gave me, a choice. Gave me choices to go. Well, what do I want to do? So I got into the real estate market, bought a couple of houses, and then it opened my doors. Like, what do I want? I want to help people, but people say that all the time. It's generic. I feel that. I just want a job. I want to help someone. Well, what? Why do you want to help someone? Where's that coming from?
Yep.
So I guess I was still searching. Like, I'd done health and safety courses, PT courses, eating courses, tried every diet under the sun, every supplement. So I was still on that performance bandwagon, trying to be the best I can. But then as the time went on in the mines, I started to get, I probably felt more anxiety in my system. I'm going, this sort of feels like I had some time ago, but I'd sort of shut it out. And then it started to rear its head a lot more.
Yep.
So I become more aware of the feeling and, same thing, go and train. So I'd go and smash myself in the gym to get away from it. And it'd give me a period of time, but then it would come back.
Yep.
And I was like, something's going on. And then by chance, one of the guys that were out in the mines at the time, Stu Sheffers, introduced me to this therapy, NeuroPhysics Therapy, which is what I do now, and gave me this piece that Ken, the founder, had written about, how the body can, heal itself. And, at that point in time, it was way over my head, the concept of that. And but there's little bits and pieces around that, how your posture and, getting back to the environment there, how I have to change how I feel and those type of things. And the biggest thing I took for it was that integration, that physical, emotional aspect of, we are one system. We can't separate us. We're not a car. We're not linear. So we're non-linear. So, and Ken talks about, our system being, one system, but everything you do affects everything within the system. So obviously, if we're going to make some changes, it's going to impact upon everything. So rather than treat a condition or, the disorder, we look at how this whole system interacts with their environment. Well, then we start to identify, how are they behaving in their relationships, works, those type of things. So it was all that sort of little intro that just went, I really can't do this job because it's not meaningful.
Yep.
I'm getting the money, which I thought would solve all my problems. In one aspect it did, but I hated going to work. It was like first day, and this is the same across, I would say, bit of a generalisation, but where I was, people hated the first few days. You barely got any words out of anyone.
Yep.
And then come day 7, it's like you're going on a year-long
Bucks
vacation.
Or something.
Everyone's happy. And then go home and then bang. So it's just repeat. And, I think playing footy, doing shift work. I worked in the watch house as well as a police assistant. So, when people come in, searching, making sure they're right.
What was that like?
Well, I was quite young back then as well. So, I probably knew a lot of the people that were coming, that were hanging out with me on the town, and because I was from that area. But it probably gave me a little bit of insight into, you could just walk around different streets and places and you don't really see what's happening. So I was exposed to, some of the underlying things that were happening within that town. And, just like, whether they do it because they're struggling or whatever the situation. But so I guess it opened my eyes for being so young, different things that were happening around there. And then they wanted me to join the police, and I don't know. I just couldn't see myself doing that. One thing I didn't touch on is when I went to the Cowboys, I got given a scholarship to university for physiotherapy to go back to regional areas. So my whole course was funded.
Sick.
And 6 months in, I did my knee, and even at that point, I'm like, it's just not ticking the boxes. And I didn't touch on it at school, like with all those clubs and school captain, I was like, it's not enough. Or it's not that it's not enough, it's just, you'd think every aspiring footy player would be like, oh, how good's this? This is what you work your ass off. But I was like, nah. And I think I was that burnt out as well, probably. And I couldn't make sense of how I felt and, still developing. And when I got to that 24, 25 age, I just had to throw that bit in there, which sort of ties it in. But that's where I could start to piece all that stuff together and go, holy shit, this is the way, I am. I've been, in a way, I've been trying to prove a point all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going, well, why am I doing it? From a young age, I love football. And it wasn't only until I went back out to the bush and just played, bush footy. I didn't care about anything. I just had fun.
Yep.
Did my own training. Actually started to enjoy it again. And I think maybe the pressure from within, it was no one else was putting pressure on me. It was me.
Yep.
I'd drop a ball and I'd be doing, rower and that, passing the footy at the goalpost for an hour to make up for it. I was so hard on myself, and I would never sort of praise myself up for the things that I did, but it became very detrimental to my health, and in some ways probably exacerbated those emotional, physical feelings that I encountered. But that's what led me to where I was.
I think you touch on an important point there. If you're in a position, regardless of, I guess, what your career is, but many of us make our life, it's crazy that it's like from school when you're 17, 18 and you don't really have much life experience, you're expected to choose something that we think we're going to do for the rest of our life.
It's pretty daunting.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's like the fact that a career counselor is a thing is mind-blowing, when it's just like, just fuck around for 5 years and go try a heap of different things.
Can't beat experience.
No, but as you were saying, like the main thing is like have fun with it.
Yeah.
Regardless of profession, unless you're like performing surgery on people, I still have fun. Like you can, even for me, like one thing that I need to work on is learning to have a bit more fun in what I do. It's like there's so many opportunities for me to have a laugh, bit of banter, but I think I take myself so seriously in so many instances because I have an idea of what I'm trying to create, why I'm trying to create it, and how I need to get there. So when going back to the tunnel vision you spoke of, it's like it's very easy to fall in that composure, and if you aren't aware, like a lot of people aren't, your relationship can fall by the wayside. You can, health can deteriorate. You mates might want to hang around anymore.
Spot on.
You lose hobbies. And I think it's really important, and you were touching on it there, is like just the awareness to understand, regardless of what you're trying to improve on, still be mindful that your career success impacts your relationships, which impacts your health, which impacts, they're all leaning on each other.
All connected,
So if there's a fracture somewhere, you got to fix that, because eventually it'll break.
The biggest, the easiest way I could connect to that is when, Ken, he likens it to a spider web. So, you see a nice healthy spider web in amongst trees, wind, water, all these things come into it, and it sort of maintains its integrity. If someone was to sort of knock a bit of that web out, well, then the whole integrity of that system can be compromised. So, or like a trampoline, you see all the intimately woven fabric on a brand new one, all good.
Yep.
Or you go back home, you pull the old 20-year-old missing springs, there's holes in there. So it's not a certainty, but when you jump on there, there's a lot of unknown that could happen. So that we if you were to put that mapping over a person and go, well, there might be a sore knee here, or there's a bit of an anxiety, or their shoulders out of whack, well, then the whole system is, in a way, very random and unpredictable. So we don't really know when it's going to happen because there's so many weak points or points that could let you down over time. So we've got to strengthen all that up for us to perform in a healthy way,
What did the start of your journey into neurophysics look like? Like, was it confronting, or how did you
very confronting, because I was aware of these things, but, I'll be quite frank, I thought I had my shit together.
Yep.
So it's very humbling, the experience. So, you go through a series of movements, like weight, typical gym equipment, but very, very slow. You close your eyes because that way you can feel into what's happening in your body. Because if your eyes are open, you can sort of correct everything to... Yeah,
definitely.
So if even though I'm not looking at my hand, I'm still picking up where it is as it moves across that space. But closing your eyes, we start to see all these different... feel all these different movements, but it's enough stress to sort of generate how we would behave in our day-to-day life. So if you were to sit nice and calm and, there's no stress coming in, well, you're not really going to see anything at all. It might be like the duck on the pond, but you're not going to really see how that person interacts. But I guess sort of going through, as a result of the knee injury, I couldn't go below 90. There wasn't the ACL. It wasn't pain, but I just couldn't go below that point for some reason, or I thought I couldn't. And then the anxiety was one thing, but I thought, that was normal. Didn't really buy into it.
Yep.
So yeah, going through that process, it was over 4 days, and probably the clarity was the biggest thing that come for me. My knee moved fine, but how desensitized I was, even hearing, visual input, seeing things, how my body moved. I was so rigid and desensitized, and that tunnel vision. And it wasn't until that process, it was just like a big slap in the face of, wow, this is me, Cam meet Cam in a way.
Meet Cam.
Well, it was all these things I was trying to tell myself to be a certain way, to get to a certain point. I was seeing different things. So I was just layering all these things on when I was feeling what I needed to do, but in a way I was sort of discounting those feelings. So it really pulled me back into the moment. And I just, I went through that process, and then I went back to the work in the mines, and, I just started doing the program for a couple of weeks. So it's just very light, all about, creating new neural connections in the brain and taking back control of your brain and body. And so very gentle. So I had 6 months off normal training. So that was non-existent since I was 13.
Yeah.
So I didn't lift a heavy weight,
What was that like?
It was refreshing. It was really refreshing. I thought it would actually be a lot more challenging because I was letting go of my identity in a way.
Yep.
So it was very challenging for me in that sense. But I was like, no, just keep sticking to the process. And I probably got 2 or 3 weeks in and just went, I've got to learn this, because everything I was, I felt I could relate it to experiences in my life.
Yeah.
Even the little snippets of information I had, you can relate it to your life. You can relate it to you, what you see in nature. So it's quite simplistic in that sense. And I was like, I've got to learn this. So that was end of 2015. And then once I started studying, I reckon I lasted a week. And then I drove out there to the mines and went, I'm quitting. I'm quitting. So I walked into the office, quit, and because it's 7 and 7, so you have to give 2 weeks notice. Yep. I was like, well, just take 7 sickies, whatever, I don't care, just whatever, take it, don't pay me a day, I'm done. I cannot stay here. There's even people I didn't catch up with, so I was like, I just close the door. See you later.
Just to put that in context, so did you have a family or anything at the time, for you to
make
that decision?
No, I was single.
Yep.
And probably the other part of that, trying to figure out who I was, what I was feeling. So when I was in relationships, I wasn't really, I was just in them because as a young person, everyone else is doing it. I'll just, she's attractive. Yep, cool. Yep. But because I was trying to understand who I was, and I didn't know this, I just couldn't give them, because I didn't know who I was. Yep. So you'd get to a point and go, I'm bored. And it's not that I was bored. I just didn't understand. I didn't know how to, respond in a certain way. It was selfish in some aspects, but it's purely come back to how I understood myself. And when I got to that point, it was big change.
And then so you went down the route, obviously when you were learning it.
Yeah.
For yourself, you sort of found purpose in this, and I think it's interesting. And we were talking about it. I was talking to someone at coffee this morning.
Yeah.
As an athlete, even in rugby league, if you're lucky, you'll play till you're 35. There's some obviously.
I think it's 2.5 years as an average NRL career.
Yeah, so that's 25 for most people.
Yeah,
unless they play Q Cup or whatever.
Yeah,
but you're still a baby then, really.
Yeah,
you've got your whole life, but as you said, your whole identity was that
football.
Yeah,
that was me. That was. In some ways, I associated to being, up here with footy, which in some aspects, that's why I hate footy.
Yep.
And that's a generalisation as well, because you sort of get put on that pedestal, whether it's you create that or other people create that. But at the end of the day, you're just you're different to someone at Woolies or whatever. You always treat people with that.
Yep.
that respect. So that was probably the challenging thing that I struggled, because I knew who I was, but I was trying to be something that I wasn't.
Yep.
And I was introverted, quiet, and then I try and be like the typical
the dude.
Yeah. I think I even had blonde bleach hair, little rat's tail and all that. And I was like, I look back at that and go, what the hell? What was I trying to be?
Yep.
So, it was a purpose. It's like I know I wanted to help people. Like even doing coaching camps and working with kids and that when I was at the Cowboys, like I still had a lot going on in me, but it's like I had the way of connecting with people and so I was just searching for that purpose. And then, the thing with it is if it can have this profound effect on me, well, imagine what it could do to other people. And, that's when I started to see the work Ken was doing.
Yep.
People getting out of wheelchairs. And, I was very skeptical.
What was that? Yeah, I was going to say
of it to start, because I'm like, how is that possible? Like they're just doing... a pec fly or a leg press, and now this person can feel their leg again, or
So were they paralysed, or what was?
Well, there was a combination. Yep. So there's complete, which means where the lesion is in the spinal cord, they can't feel anything below.
Yep.
And then there's incomplete, but that it's not enough sensation or feeling to be able to walk or move, or they need assistance. Any condition. So brain injury, all those type of conditions, and these people would come in. Ken would work with them, and then, they're walking and just going, what is going on here? So that's what made me do the therapy. But like, as I said to you, I thought I had everything together. But that was really the anchor point of we are one system, physically, emotionally, we have to treat the system as one. So, you're watching a game of footy, two mates, you go for Bronx, I go for Cowboys, you're happy, I'm pissed off. So same experience, but we're having a totally different emotional response to something physical that's happening.
Yes.
Where, you can do something physical and then you have an emotional response to it. So that's where you can never separate that, that physical, emotional aspect of any experience we have in our life. So, seeing all that unfold was just like, I've got to learn this. Like, I've got to see what it's all about. And then, like I said, the more I got into it, the more I could relate it to my life, people I've worked with, been around, different environments, and it just made sense. And, I had the idea that I wanted to work with athletes.
Yep.
And then I thought, well, I was difficult myself. Like, how the hell am I going to work with myself? So I started to do a little bit with athletes, and then started to get a sprinkling of people with brain injuries and that type of thing, and told that they're not going to be able to do these certain things. So that really spiked my interest, because these people were desperate. They're desperate to be the best that they can. They're committed. They know that there's more that they can do, but they don't know how to do it. So that's where my purpose started to tap into. So, I wanted to help people, show them that they have everything they need. We just have to help them tap into that and coach them in that process. So,
what would be like one or two easy things that people could do? Why they're listening to this, for example?
Posture. Yeah. So, that's probably the most important thing, to our health. So
sit up tall.
That's it. There's Ken does I think it's a 35-minute video where he talks. We have certain pillars in NeuroPhysics. So it's, posture, emotions, environment. They're what we call the big three. So, our posture reflects how the living system reflects and perceives its world. So we can only be in a state of growth or a state of protection. So if I'm in a state of, say you're at the gym, you're in a state of protection, you're trying to do heavy deadlifts, bench press, you're trying to have a meaningful conversation, you're not processing that information well. So it's all getting jammed up, and you feel like shit when you're in that protective state. You see someone walking around chest up, you go, oh, he's a bit on himself. He's confident. But so we can relate to how that feels. So the number one thing, irrespective of condition, is, making sure we maintain that growth posture. So our brain can connect to our feet, to our body, and with ease. So it's like it starts raining, the traffic starts to get all congested. So if someone's head's forward, the spinal cord can't communicate properly. So everything becomes impacted, compressed. So it's trying to do the same jobs, but it has all this interference and turbulence. So that could be pain for someone, could be anxiety, could be balance issues, could just be being cranky. or not feeling your best. So posture is the most fundamental thing for us to function. So you see it in nature everywhere. Healthy environments, trees flourish when there's the right, stimulus throughout. Overstimulation, understimulation, everything starts to prune back. So humans are no different like that. So posture would be the most important one. And just challenging yourself. I can send you a couple of little videos where people can practice. Like we do one where we work on our proprioception with our eyes closed, and then we can assess, what side of the brain is doing the lion's share of information. So if someone might come in and they're all jumpy, or they're over there, so then we can identify that. Okay, well this person, left brain, right brain dominant, but there's all this interference in there, so that's noise. So if there's too much mental noise, which is body noise, was very hard to be at our best.
Well, that whole posture thing, and going back to how you portray us or how you're showing up and the energy,
spot on.
It sounds woo-woo, but I believe a lot in energy, and I think that's what makes me such a good coach. Is when you see people's posture, I have a rough idea of how they're thinking or how they're talking to themselves. And also, the way that their body looks to a degree is how much effort they put into looking after themselves, and it comes back to my belief is self-respect. Those who care about themselves and are aware that if you put your own oxygen mask on first, you'll be able to give to other people. They're the ones who are in good condition. They're the ones who are walking around confident and sure and assertive in their own way, whereas the other people who are, as you said, pruned back, they're the ones that I'm like, okay, well, we just need to help them put their left foot in front of the right foot and allow them to prove to themselves that they're capable of what most people believe they would be capable of.
That's it, because a lot of people will go, it's like that external, I'm broken. Well, no one's going to fix you, unless it's something very acute. You need the resources, yes, but everything you have's in there. You've got to want to make that, change. So essentially, we just provide the platform or the foundations of how a system needs to upgrade itself. That's what the therapy does, and coaching, getting them to stop at certain points. So we allow that process for the system to take ownership over what's already happening. So we don't do any crazy manipulations or movements to them. They're engaging the stress themselves. So then we see the true colours come up. So they feel it and they go, oh, geez, I feel anxious, or geez, I'm getting hot. Well, this is you. This is how you're behaving. It's, one plate. It's very calm, nice, quiet music. There's no one around, and we're having these responses. So if you can't control that here in one plate, well, how the hell are you going to control that at work when things start to get to a certain point? And then once we get that control, then we can start to add more and more weight over time. And all it equates to is information.
100%.
So weight is information. So it's how we approach that. So the environment can either be in control of us, or we can be in control of how we perceive our environment. So,
control being a key thing. With my psych again on Tuesday, we're going through schemas, and one of the ones she's just like, so do you feel you're pessimistic or optimistic? And I'm like, well, I wake up every day pessimistic. There's so many things going on in my life where my default response, I like to call myself a realist, but I'm like, this is how I see it. I'm aware enough to know now that people don't like me being that way, and I don't like myself being that way, and it's not a fun way to live. So because of that awareness, I can take, however long I feel I need, it's not that long, to then process that and go, look, that may be how I think, but this is how I would choose to think, because it makes other people around me enjoy my company, and it also is a better way to live ultimately. And that happens literally every day. Same with my sadness and my anxiety. I experience it all the time, the doubt, and once again, I'm aware of it. And sometimes, once again, there's no timeline on how long I may experience it for. I choose to sit in it, but I know that when I was living that way, where I was allowing the depression, the anxiety, the pessimistic thoughts, the self-doubt to run my mind, I felt good because I could blame a lot of things as to why I wasn't getting the results, but my life fucking sucked. It sucked. The moment that I said, okay, well, I may experience those things and they're as real as I want them to be, but I'm going to choose to do whatever it takes to flip them around to a way that's going to allow me to have the life that I want. That's harder. Like it is challenging because the responsibility is on me. I need to get back in control.
Yeah, spot on.
But the results have changed tenfold. And the life that I now have, I truly believe is as a result of understanding and believe, whether people disagree or not, it's your own opinion. You can do as you want. All I would challenge you to think about is your life going the way you want it to be or not?
Yeah, you can make a choice.
You can make a choice. And as you said, there are acute instances that are outside of our control, but majority of things in your life, we have control over.
Yeah. And I think too, like the other thing is that, we become addicted to our patterns of behaviour.
Yep.
So, we're trying to change, but our system wants to keep reverting to that habitual patterns of behaviour, and it's actually easier.
Of course it is, yeah.
You get up, have coffee, blah, 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 even good habits. So the more it starts to synchronise, or you do that every day, then it starts to become the norm. If you want to add something in or change that, it costs a lot of energy to make that adjustment or change that behaviour, because the system, we are all addicted. We're addicted to whatever it is, but that's how our brains work.
Yep.
So you can either have unhealthy patterns of behaviour or healthy patterns of behaviour, but ultimately you have that choice, and there's more than enough resources and help for people to make those decisions.
And it's such a cool time now, whereas what is it? Youth is wasted on the young. Or no, whatever that quote is.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
but it's like the older we get, the more hindsight and experience we have. We go, if I was 20 again, I would do this.
Spot on.
We're so fortunate now to have access. Like the people who are listening to this, for example, maybe they would have never had the opportunity to sit down and have a coffee with you and I at the same time.
Yeah,
they're now getting that experience. But we get to listen to, if you invest the time, the brightest minds in the world on podcasts or YouTube, or you can even pay to go to their events. And you can do that at a young age, right? Like,
well, you'd have to go to, years ago, you'd got to pay 20, 30 grand, go do a uni course.
Exactly.
And you don't really get the same content or the more personalised information that you're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. And now we have that. Like I started work like this trying to sort my stuff out at 23.
Yeah.
Like there's some people I know who listen to this who are 60 plus.
Yeah.
Look, any age is better than not doing it at all.
And it's just a number.
Exactly.
Like we just tell people age is purely a number. It comes back to how you deal with stress. So, when you're 5, 10, 20, 40, 50, we start aging. So, but how quickly we age and the wear and tear comes back to how you can deal with stress. We need stress to evolve. Too much stress, things start to go wrong. So it's just finding that nice tipping point where you can function.
Yep. How do you approach treating complex disorders I guess you sort of already touched on this, how you sort of look at it from a holistic standpoint, but what would be, I don't know whether you're allowed to talk about examples, just
I'm
definitely.
Sure
Client confidentiality or whatever, but an example of, I guess, a complex thing that you've had to navigate and how you sort of piece that together.
Yeah, so there's a few that I can talk about because I've presented at 3 conferences just on different conditions that I've worked with. But there's one guy I'll talk about, and he was, and this is a good one for age. So 78, or I think he was 75 at the time. He was in Perth 3 years ago, riding his grandson's scooter down the driveway, fell off, cracked his head open, had to go to hospital, intensive care. So he had significant brain damage through cerebellum and the limbic regions of his brain. And secondary to that, had really bad vertigo, tinnitus as a result of the sheer impact. So they were going to turn off the life support, and then his wife said, no, so he pulled through that. So that would have been probably 2 or 3 months in hospital. So he presented for a consultation, so you see all the medical reports on there, never going to walk again, never going to stand unassisted. So that's come out from them. They do it's a Berg balance assessment test. So it's like a risk category to see full risk. OTs do it.
Yes.
And he was, I think it goes up between 60 and 80. And he was sitting at about an 8 or a 10, which is, pretty well wheelchair bound. Can't move, can't be moved without assistance because he'll fall. So after just speaking to them about the process, doing some mild exercises and just seeing suitability and how he connected to, what I was saying. He was, very keen to give it a go. So then the next week he come in and did 4 days of therapy. And no, even though I had all that information, all that history, when he turned up on Monday, we just treat the person. So we just treat it in the here and now. I can't go back in time and alter what's happened, but we can work together to create new patterns of behaviour to restore function, stability, whatever it is the person's after. So as he engaged with the movement, you could start to see all the randomness in there, like irregularities in movement, which is obviously what's happening in his brain. So in a simple way, we just went through and tidied all that up, got it nice and smooth, connected to certain parts of his body again. And then the first day he was able to stand up on his own. And then the fourth day he did a full lap of the gym. I'll have to send you, I presented on him at the conference. So and I said, just walk around, pretend Usain Bolt's chasing you around the gym, and he's just powering on. And he said, I'll trip him as
as he runs past.
So like even the sense of humour, all those type of things started to elaborate more. He could elaborate more on all that because all that noise started to dissipate out of his system. So, and then 3 months later, it was just before I did the conference, like he was walking 800 metres, he was dribbling a soccer ball around the gym.
What was that like for you watching this unfold?
Well, it's always amazing, and you get really emotional, because some days I really have to sit back and just reflect on the day because it is so powerful, the change that's, and even doing a session myself, it's like, oh geez, this is so powerful. Like the amount of times I've said that just to my parents, like if I'm having a chat with them and go, God, this is so amazing. Like it is so powerful and profound, the effect that I feel. And so that I have to check myself with it, that I'm grateful to have this opportunity to help people, but also I have these tools for myself. But getting that result, and even the uncertainty of the report, never going to be able to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then, so without that even in your mind, we've got rules. Ken's taught us a way to be able to tap into the system and teach these clients what they need. So
like a hacker.
Yeah, well, it's like, and the beautiful thing is everyone has this already in them. Ken's found a way 20, 30 years ago to tap into this, and that the nervous system can correct its own issues, restraints under the right conditions. So at the end of that time, like the 4 days when it was walking around, I was just, wow, this is incredible. So you sort of know that the potential's there, but you can see, I knew he could stand up because everything started to tidy up. And it was like, there's John McLean, you've probably heard of him. He was got hit by a truck down in Penrith, I think 25 years ago. So he's incomplete paraplegic. I think he'd represented Australia in different sports but never walked. So never really sort of broached that area. But he went and worked with Ken in 2013, and Ken took him through a chest press really slow. And I think it was day 4, could start to see movements in his legs and go, well, there's no reason why you can't walk. Let's get up and have a look. So anyway, he got up and took unassisted steps, first time in 25 years. So in a way, like as you're working with people, we can see that the potential there, despite beliefs or what they think, or the body's informing us of what, or the system's informing us of what we need to do, but also what, where they can go with it. So
do you get any backlash around that being like woo-woo or any like people with that?
We do. In some ways it appears so simple, but what's actually happening within the system is so complex. And, it's not just one science that we're, tapping into. It's like, biology, physiology, psychology, chaos theory, complexity theory, everything. So it's all, elements, neuroscience. So Ken's sort of, gone through all these elements over the years to piece this practice together. But, and how it happens so quickly, people, there's been 60 Minutes, people on 60 Minutes, BBC have come over and filmed a guy that was at the Ariana Grande concert where the explosion took place. And he was the closest one, I believe, that didn't pass away, but looked like he'd been shot 22 times through his body. So Ken worked with him, and in like 10 minutes, he was complete, I think, T10 spinal cord injury. He was sitting unassisted, like in 10 minutes on the floor. And they were just, They had to strap him into the pec fly for the first part, and then he was sitting on his own doing the movement.
What the fuck?
So that like people just say, oh, that's a miracle. You know, and even on like 60 Minutes, they've said that a couple of times. I think, oh, it's a miracle because it's unexplained. You know, it's just a fluke.
Phenomenon.
But if you were to spend, you know, even with what we are doing down there, but you spend a day with Ken, you know, Nicky Ware at the Institute and see the people that, you know, come in, you know, they are, you know, people that have been told they're never going to walk.
Yep.
They're, you know, massive strokes, all types of conditions that there's no improvement. They've been told that, you know, this is it. And then 4 days later, they, you know, all these things happen. But that's just a regular thing. You know, and he's been doing this 20 or 30 years. Yeah. So, you know, it's probably, it gets a lot more international exposure. Like Ken does a lot of collaborations with universities over just on the data you might take from people. And, but yeah, so in a way, like that's sort of when I got into it, I was like, well, how can I get this more accessible? Like, you know, how can we get everyday people to learn about this? And it is very hard to simplify it in a way, but yeah.
It's a mission for you now.
It is, mate. It is. So it's like, yeah. How do we I love working with more complex disorders. So, but essentially, I guess getting back to your question, it is treat the person, not the disorder. You have 100 people with, you know, pick a condition.
Yes,
they're all going to be different. You know, you have twins that have the same condition. They're still going to be different because they're in different space and time at different points.
Yep.
So you're purely just seeing how, you know, if you didn't send in any information in and we just go, righto, Lockie, let's just jump in here. This is what we're going to do. We'll see how your system wants to interact physically and emotionally. Yep. So there might be like, you know, I've had boxers that sort of will duck their head as they're doing a pec fly because you're going slow enough to see these underlying.
Yeah.
So it's all connected to what's actually happening in the neural schema in the brain. So, you know, all these avoidant movements, if there might be anxieties like histamine, can't move it at all. It's one plate. So these are all things that are happening within their system.
It's only a matter of time, though, before it does become more mainstream. You just look at Wim Hof, for example.
Yep.
Everyone thought what he did was bullshit.
Yep.
And he's literally changing a lot of stuff like anxiety, depression, you know, and so many other things that still can't be explained, but people are feeling it, right? And if you feel it and believe it to be true, it's true to you. That's 100%. What belief is, right?
100%, yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, I've always said this, touch wood, but like my dad just had prostate cancer. But for me, I'm like, if I have cancer, I was over in America a few years ago, did a week-long course with Dr. Dom D'Agostino, who's like the
keto.
Expert on keto and fasting and that. And just the research he has linked to that around Alzheimer's, cancer.
He's been doing it for a long time too.
Oh, it's mind-blowing. And I was like, okay, well, I went down the rabbit hole, obviously. But for me, I'm like, that's potentially how I would look to tackle it. And that's just my beliefs based off what I've seen. And it's like, okay, well, I've also seen the flip side of how certain things impact your quality of life, from chemo to radiation and various other things like that. And I think everyone's entitled to their opinion and belief and treatment of choice.
Yep.
I think it's also very important to look at the pros and cons of everything and be open-minded to stuff, because science, to get an article published takes a long time.
Oh, huge. It's like Ken told me that like he could present something, or, you know, someone's at a conference, to then get peer reviewed. It could be 10 years. And then by the time it's in uni, there's 10.
Yeah.
And it's like the way, or how quickly things have, you know, science and all that's escalating, where, you know, what's actually happening is miles and miles ahead of what people are getting taught. Yeah. So there's that massive gap in between. So, you know, it's,
that's why I'm grateful we got to have the opportunity to have you on here to talk about this, like the neurophysics stuff, because once again, it's something that I only know about because of you.
Yep.
And I'm sure a lot of people are hearing about it for the first time, but it's like, start checking these things out, because, you know, gym's not for everyone, and there's so many things that people don't like doing. So it's not about neglecting what could improve your life. Just find what works well for you.
Yeah, spot on.
And once again, I don't like bodybuilding, but you don't see me fucking ripping into bodybuilders online or saying what they do isn't right. It's right for them, so let them do it. So,
each to their own,
Yeah, I and my mum's massive into natural health. She did her kinesiology and all that sort of jazz. So I've been influenced by that and like things like visualization since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, I'm definitely open to, trying different ways to improve my quality of health.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But now you're also into the space where you're wanting to, I won't take too much more of your time, but you're in the space now where you're wanting to teach more people because you've got your own clinic down in Ballina.
Yeah. So moved to Perth, sort of work with, she was an ex-Olympian at the time, Tennille Attard. So she set one up over there and I went over there, practiced for 5-6 years. And then... speaking of cancer, Dad got cancer, come back to Queensland, and just pretty much put everything on the rack and just spent time making sure he was good. Moved to Brisbane with my partner. Opportunity in Ballina popped up, and then literally all happened within...
It was quick, man.
Oh, quick. Nuts. Like, I think Dad... Get the dates mixed up, but I think it was 2020. We were down here... End of that year, surgery for Dad, and then I was staying with my partner. And then that following year in June, we'd bought it was a gym down there, and then we turned it into a clinic, and that's now 18 months later, and it's flat out. We have got I brought a guy down from Rocky, Keaton White, a therapist, so who I'd done a bit of stuff with as well. So he's practicing now. Brody McJoro, my business partner. So there's 3 of us practicing. There's another guy studying, and then I think there's a couple more that are keen. So it's full steam ahead.
What's the goal for you over the next 5 years?
I spent a lot of time over the break on this, like sort of pondering what I want. And I did put so much energy into trying to get it out there. Mm-hmm. But I've sort of weighed it up, going, well, what do I want out of this? Like, what's and the biggest thing that's worked for me is just go to work, do your job how you know how to do it. Just treat every day like a white sheet of paper, even though you have structure and, tasks and intentions or, plans of what you want to happen for the day. But I'll just rock up, see what happens. And if I give that, 100% every day, it just naturally grows. So because I'm putting energy into that place, into that system, that person's system, boom, then they go and tell anyone, to the next person. So a lot of the people we've got down there is just been from word of mouth. People that have lived in that area for a very long time have gone and told their friend or their neighbour. Yep. They've come in. They've got these friends. Now we're getting referrals from physicians and allied health, and a lot of people say, I don't know what they're doing, but it works. So they just keep coming in. So I've got a guy coming from Perth in a couple of weeks, people from Sydney, getting inquiries from overseas off the back of what Ken's doing as well, because he would have, I think it's 90% of people come from overseas to see him and Nikki. And he's got a massive waiting list just because of what he can do. Like, it's incredible. A 5-year plan, it would be potentially to open, another one. But it's not even, I guess financially, yes, that's great. That all sort of takes care of itself. But it's to provide, I guess, number one is that there's a lot of people in distress. And I see it firsthand. And even just going to a coffee shop and you chat to someone and then they'll break down. And so there's so many people teetering on the edge of, meltdowns and all sorts of things. And I guess, if anything, it's just creating awareness that, hey, you have a choice. This is what we do. And I never try and force it on anyone. I just sort of listen and,
And to work with you, do they have to come see you in Ballina, or can you do stuff online as well, or how does it all work?
For therapy? It depends on the situation, but essentially it's all in person. We might do a Skype consultation to gather some information, but ideally, best scenario is to take them through some exercises. Then we can assess, okay, this person needs this much treatment, or this person's pretty good. They'll probably only need this type of treatment. But we get a really nice picture of where their system's at that point in time. And then, what what's actually going to be needed moving forward, for the therapy. So it's very much a one-on-one type therapy. So, in a way I did have a bit of a plan to sort of people that have gone through the process to create like a bit of an online way just to keep them connected with resources and that. But you can't really instruct anyone, going through the movement because if someone's coming through and you see these really fine movements in the fascia, they're connected and they're the things that we're looking at. So
gotcha.
On a screen or a camera, you can't see that.
Yeah, if people aren't in 4K, you can't see
that. And even just our positioning too, like where we move around, we can see different things. So it's, it has to be in person. Yeah.
Where can people find you and all the work that you're doing?
Online. So I've got my own Insta page. So it's Calibrate with Cam, K-A-M.
Ooh.
And that name come off the back of a documentary that was created called Calibrate, which it's about Ken's life and work, and it won multiple.
Where can you watch that on?
So it's on Vimeo, I think.
I've
seen it. So it can.
That's the one you sent. Yeah,
that one. So it's got Mark Matthews, a big
surfer,
crazy surfer on there.
Weapon,
So he's on there. Some people from all over the world, but essentially.
I'll post that link in the comments for everyone.
Yeah, that'll be cool. It's just it will seem surreal, but it's incredible. Like these people telling, that's the power of what we do. We don't sort of try and promote, okay, I do this, but like a salesperson, we let our clients, patients speak about their experience. And that's how it sort of works. But it won multiple awards throughout all the international film festivals a couple of years ago. That's what I name my business and website through that. But then we have NeuroPhysics Therapy Northern Rivers.
Boom.
So that's the clinic, it's called in Ballina. So we have a website there. There's actually a really nice testimonial of probably 10 people that we've worked with, just showcasing what they do. So, very rarely are we out, in a way talking like this. So we just try and portray.
Is this your first podcast?
It is.
Oh, yes.
It is. I was thinking about that on the way,
I need to get like a tally of people's first podcast. It's like a little victory board. It's good.
Definitely. And like I think I said to it at the start of the week, it's that, even the social media presence, I don't really have, I need to do a lot more and, showcase the people that we have that come through. And, they want to tell people as well because they're doing things that they didn't think they could do. So
it impacts people's lives, right?
100%. Yeah. So that's that, probably putting more energy into that space so that people can connect to that. And, because it's, it's not like Brisbane, I guess. It's a little bit smaller down there. So these people see those people out and about and go, oh, my God. What have you been doing? Where's your walking stick or where's your walker gone? Oh, go work with these guys. And so that's the community impact and just those stories. And, it's that network. I always think of it as, if I put energy into there, they're going to go and I get a good result with them. They're happy. They go and tell those people. And then it just keeps going. So that's how I had no business idea when I started. I've just figured it out.
As you've gone.
And that's been my recipe, so to speak. Get a good result, it will take care of itself. So I've got a little bit more structure now. But, that's it.
Love it.
That's it.
Thanks so much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries, Lockie. All the best.